Good news, engine's in the car. Bad news, I haven't really been keeping y'all up to date, and I'm sorry about that. Life has been pretty hectic recently. A lot of, bad stuff has been happening. My luck has been on a... Life has been pretty hectic recently. I've been I've been on a bad luck streak. And so I kind of took some time off and just focused on the car, focused on my life, and just kind of like getting things together a little bit. And so we managed to get the engine in the car. Dylan brought over this engine hoist, and we used that to put the engine in the car. There's my old block over there. You can see the stand is now empty. I managed to get some wheels and tires for the Jeep, so it's now got good wheels and tires to tow with. And we have the engine in the car. So what we're doing right now is we're basically getting all the wiring. So I could just plug everything in, and just send it. But last time I did that, I didn't put the harness on anything that would save it from touching the motor, and so the harness would melt. And so now I'm trying to do it the quote-unquote right way, which is basically to have everything sealed off and everything, mounted on brackets properly. Earlier today, I was plugging off this water port, which is normally an emissions device for street cars, and then I tapped and threaded it and put an RTV in it, and I put a bolt in there. These are all silicone eBay hoses, and I'm actually really, really pleased with the fitment. So normally the OEM hose kind of comes up here and flaps around unless you have a bracket that comes out of here. But that bracket always breaks, and so these actually don't even need the bracket. I have to get the hoses from the heater core to the block. But I mean, for the most part, a lot of stuff is wired up. Things that are the missing link right now, there's one fuel line. It's a return fuel line from the fuel pressure regulator. And in addition to that fuel line, there is also, I need to get a GSR OBD1 ECU for the first event, and I will be getting the AEM Infinity tuned for the first race. So, but everything's in. I mean, we damaged, this is an S2000 throttle body. It's 62 millimeters. It's OEM. We damaged the throttle position sensor on this throttle body when we were dropping the motor in, and I think I can show you that unless I threw it out. Here's an LS throttle body, and I think I threw it out, but basically we took the position sensor off this LS throttle body and we put it on the S2000 one, and it was basically the same. The orientation was different for the connector itself, but everything was the same. So we managed to get a working throttle body, throttle position sensor on there. I do not have heat in this garage right now. I am out of kerosene, and it's cold, and I don't want to drive to go get it right now. So I'm going to be dealing with the cold, I suppose. It decided that it was going to snow today. It's like spring tomorrow, and it decided it would snow today. So it's very cold. Not enjoying this weather. I'm getting really tired of living here. And but yeah, so we got this going on. Other things. So I actually found out that I didn't have hubs for the knuckles that I just had, Cerakoted and loaded with bearings and ball joints. So I was like, crap, I don't have hubs. And I went through this whole wild goose chase. So, I thought I had spare parts. I didn't have spare parts. I have one knuckle with a hub on it, and then I couldn't find Integra hubs. Then I found some guy on Marketplace selling hubs, and then he sent them to me, but I think they were like SI hubs. They were slightly too small, or EK hubs. But I found this literally in Dylan Dewson's garage, thank you, sitting on the floor. And then also on eBay, someone sent me a Integra knuckle with a hub, supposedly. So we will see if that is the correct hub. Worst case scenario, I have this, which is a driver's side, and then I have a passenger side. We will press this in the passenger side, and then we'll be good to go, put the extended studs in. And then I also, more hub madness, these are OEM hubs. And they have extended studs in them, which is sick because I've never had extended studs in my rear hubs on this car. Other things I bought, seat back brace. These are some gears that I had left over. I don't know what this is actually. But yeah, I mean, everything is in. And in one of my Instagram videos, I didn't get to show you guys, but I think I figured out the reason why the transmission had failed in this car. So if you guys aren't familiar, the transmission basically failed in the Civic from a main shaft bearing failure. when I was trying to put the transmission back together, it was binding. And I had taken the main shaft and the counter shaft apart multiple times, checked the order of the gear stack assembly, and it was all wrong. It was all right. Everything was right. And I couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. So, I said, well, what the heck? Let me check the run out on the main shaft, because the main shaft bearing was bent, right? Or the main shaft bearing was blown up. So I just looked at it by eye. I don't have V-blocks yet, which I'm going to buy. And it was, you could see it had run out. And I was like, wow, that's bent. So then I got a main shaft from LS, threw the other main shaft in the trash, and it worked fine. So now I have the transmission together with everything in it. As you can see, it's in the car. But that was a huge challenge. That took up a lot of time, took up a lot of troubleshooting. There's a lot of stuff that's been going wrong in life and with the car recently. And so, that's why I've been away. I've been taking a break. So I hope you guys are, okay with that. And I appreciate the patience on everyone's end. It's really nice. You guys are awesome. The racing community is awesome. And I just hope to bring you guys content that educates you, So anyway, right now what we're trying to do is we're trying to, like I said, button up some of the wiring. And then we're also going to get these knuckles loaded up so that we can put them on the car. And then Dylan also, he Cerakoted these, and he was originally going to do it as a favor, and I gave him some money anyway. I was really appreciative of it. Thank you, Dylan. Dylan actually came and helped me drop this in the car, which is awesome. Like when the racing community is so supportive, and it just tons of gratitude, man. I'm so thankful for you guys. Thank you. But yeah, it's all. So we're getting ready. We're gonna try and get more of the wires, wired up tonight, and light the cigar back up, and should be good to go. All right, so we're back. I'm wearing these sweet glasses. So this is the hub that I got off of Dylan's floor. We just pressed in brand new ARP studs. I had them laying around. ARP studs are on back order because of COVID, and they've been on back order for a while. But I wanted to share with you guys a trick. So when you press in new studs, sometimes the studs going crooked, or the hub might be bent or damaged. So always make sure that they fit inside of the wheel before you go ahead and you keep going with your work, because you might press it into the hub, the studs aren't in straight. I had that happen to me one time, and it's a pain. So I'm just trying to save you guys some time by showing you guys some tricks on how to avoid that. But yeah, we have it all pressed in. We're going to press it into the knuckle, which is over there, I believe. And yeah. Another trick that I want to show you guys is, so number one, don't do this. I was lazy. You want to raise this lift up so you're only using one spacer at max at a time. But so the inner race of this bearing, you can see, is resting on top of the outer diameter of this socket. The reason I do that is because the bearings will separate if you try to press this in without having anything behind the inner race on the other side, because the bearings inner races are actually two parts on the wheel bearing. There's an outer part and an inner part, and they're separate. So when you press this in, it pushes that outer race down from the bottom, even though it pushes the inner race down on this side out of the knuckle, and then this inner race here stays in. So this inner race and that outer inner race down there are actually two pieces. So when you push it down, assuming this all goes to plan, you shouldn't have any issues. So, and also it should go in really smooth like this. Like, you shouldn't have any binding. It shouldn't be going in crooked. And I try to make sure that the mock-up, when I first set up the jig, the quote-unquote jig, is so that it doesn't have any issues. But we are pushing it in now, and we will see if it works. So once it stops giving, see how you press, and then it goes up. So it's basically done. So we're gonna pull it out now. All right, we have it out now. So you see how this is an inner race? This rusted part is the hub. It's an original OEM hub. I like OEM hubs because I've heard horror stories of aftermarket ones warping and cracking. So I use OEM, even if they're used. I'll buy them from junk yards or on eBay or from people on Facebook Marketplace. This inner race here gets pushed out. That's what I was saying. But when you push it all in, it should have a clearance like that. Nothing too crazy. Then when you spin it, it feels like a bearing. Nice and smooth, but it's got some resistance to it because, it's a newly packed, newly unused bearing. So we have one knuckle that we just, assembled. We're going to go inside. I ordered a knuckle from this junkyard. Well, actually, I ordered a hub from a junkyard, and they sent me the whole knuckle. So we'll see. It looks like an OEM hub. I have to get it out and see what the deal is actually. But yeah, that's the first one. All right, and so this is what the junkyard sent me. A full knuckle with the dust shield. It's interesting, spinning this, it feels like new. It's kind of funny, actually. And it looks like it was pressed in fine. But what's cool is now we have a spare driver's side knuckle. Even though I already have a driver's side knuckle over there, we now have 2 driver's side knuckles, which is great. I'm going to measure that, though, before I put it. If I ever put it on the car, I want to measure it, make sure it's good, because it might be bent. Chances are it's not. But it does look to be an Integra knuckle. One way to check is, so these are the brackets I'm going to be running on the car. Just see, do they line up? And it looks like they do. The next check to see is, so are they SI or are they EX old Civic knuckles? Well, they're not. The way I can tell is because this flange goes way out past that stud. So on an SI and an EX, you can run the Integra size brakes, but they use a smaller bearing, and they also use a smaller hub. So, you know, that's a good tip to know if you're building a car. It's going to be seeing a lot of side loads and lateral Gs because you want as much beef and meat as you can in the hub assembly, you know, because we're pushing tons of power out here, man. We got VTEC, you know, so. All right, so now we are pressing out the old hub from this old knuckle. So this is a Maddox press thing. I said in the previous video that I don't use any die assemblies for my press, but actually my friend Anthony gifted this to me. These sockets hold the knuckle up where the brake caliper would normally mount, and there's a socket here. On these knuckles, you can see there's actually a little nub. See that little metal nub where my finger's pointing? Above the dust shield? Well, that is what you use to balance that third one, but because the dust shield's in there, it's kind of getting in the way. So we're gonna see if it comes out. If we're lucky, it'll come out smooth, but it seems like it's coming out, but it's kind of sliding at the same time. So we're pressing it out, and it looks like it's going. So we just got to keep going, keep going. Notice I also raised the press up to be a little safer, and it's going to all fall on the, oh, looks like it came out. Okay, so the next thing that we have to do, so you'll notice that the inner race of the bearing is actually still pressed on here. Remember how I said there's 2 pieces of the inner race? This is one of them. So what we're going to do, I put this in backwards, is we're going to put this in a vise, okay? And we're going to tighten it up so that it doesn't have any issues. So there you go, so it's tight. Now what we need to do is take a Dremel, like this, I was doing this earlier, cut a slot in it, and I'm going to put a ton of heat on it, get a chisel bit, and just hammer it in, and it's going to split apart. Alright, so you'll see I got this nice notch dug out there. So now when I go in with the Dremel, I try not to touch this hub, but sometimes it happens. It's inevitable. So now we're going to get a chisel in there after we get some heat on it, and we're going to split it apart. Okay, and now this is why we wear safety glasses. When I was hammering this, something broke off and hit me in the face. It would have hit me in the eye, but I was wearing safety glasses. So you can see, because I use the chisel, which is somewhere, where is it? It's right here. Because I use this chisel, it came off. So I just basically took a hammer like that and it just hit the chisel until it just broke the inner race, and now we can pretty much just slide it off like so. I actually didn't even have to use heat on this one. Sometimes they're a pain and you have to use heat. With 2 hands, this would be a lot easier, so let me just put this down. Okay, so there you go. It's all knocked off. Now, you'll notice there's a little nick. That's fine. Not a big deal. Now we're going to push these studs out, and we're going, ooh, looks like I got some blood on there, and we're going to clean this up. All right, so now we have the studs knocked out, so we're going to take a wire wheel, clean it off, and then put the ARPs in. All right, and as you can see, it's a little better. So now that it's a little bit cleaner, we are going to put some old ARP studs in. They are not new. Will work for what we're doing, hopefully. All right, I am going to wrap up for tonight. But these are the knuckles, nice and straight. As you can see, these studs are a little bit discolored because they've been used, but these are brand new studs. So we have 2 new knuckles. We have a spare knuckle ready to go, and then we have a spare knuckle that is unloaded and needs to be set up with everything. I still need to get the knuckles on the car. I still need to get the brakes on the car. I still need to get the axles on the car. Basically, everything that needs to be wired up over here is wired up. I'm going to need to borrow a GSR ECU from Dylan, and I'm also going to need to get a fuel line that goes back here for this AEM unit. And then if I have time, I'd like to swap out this tiny master cylinder. It's very small, probably not going to work very well with the Legend brakes that I have. But we have it on. I also put on the distributor, because this side's all basically buttoned up. So the hose that goes to the heater core, I had to cut that because it's not a GSR. So the hose is actually sitting in a different orientation. One of the problems that I'm having right now is that the hose that goes to the other side of the heater core runs through a pipe that normally bolts to the bottom of the intake manifold. So I'm going to either need to cut that pipe, cut the brackets off that pipe and use the pipe, or figure out how to mount it with the brackets, but it's kind of tight in there now that I have this motor in there. And then I'll have the other side of the water thing wired up. This is the cold air intake that we got from eBay. So this part will go down here, like so. And we're gonna have to trim it a little bit because the filter that I'm using for this car is a very large filter. As you can see, it's a truck filter, and then it has a velocity stack, so I might actually have to go back to my blocks filter, which is over here. So lots of work done, still not quite there, but very close. So thanks for watching, and we'll continue tomorrow.